name is Rafael, you're watching Rock and Roll Garage, and today we're going to talk about two guitarists that Eddie Van Halen said were sloppy when playing live. But first, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave your comment below, tell me if you agree with him or not. Well, obviously, this is something that Eddie said once or two, and his opinion might have changed over the years, but he said this in interviews about these guitarists, and the first one is even a guitarist that became a good friend of him later on, and is Jimmy Page, the Led Zeppelin guitarist and producer and the leader of the band, I would say, and the founder of the band. There would be no Led Zeppelin without him. And although Jimmy Page admired him, Eddie Van Halen admired Jimmy Page, and he even credited the hammer-on technique coming from Jimmy Page. He watched Jimmy Page doing something like that on guitar, and he started doing that and creating that and adopting that technique and making its own. And but he believed that Jimmy Page was sloppy playing live, and this is what he said in an interview with Guitar World magazine in 1981, when he was still a recent guitar player in terms of success, right? Because Van Halen released their first album in 1978. And in this interview with Guitar World magazine, as you're gonna read here, he said, Jimmy Page is an excellent producer. Led Zeppelin 1 and Led Zeppelin 2 are classics. As a player, he's very good in the studio, but I never saw him play well live. He's very sloppy. He plays like he's got a broken hand and he's 2 years old. But if you put out a good album and play like a 2-year-old live, what's the purpose? I mean, these are very harsh words that Eddie said to Guitar World in 1981. And I mean, obviously his opinion might have changed over the years, or he saw Jimmy Page when he wasn't in a good night. But he said that, but they became friends over the decades, and Eddie respected Page a lot and paid him tributes many times over the decades. And Van Halen even played a few Led Zeppelin songs live, especially when Sammy Hagar was part of the band. And an interesting story about the two of them, and this was reviewed by David Coverdale, who worked with Jimmy Page in the 90s in the Coverdale Page project, and they're good friends. And obviously, you know, David Coverdale from Deep Purple and Whitesnake. In an interview with Eon Music back in 2020, he recalled that the last time he had the chance to hang out and see Eddie Van Halen was when he was also with Jimmy Page. And this is very interesting. I'm going to read you this part of the interview. You're going to see here. He said, David Coverdale said, Eddie Van Halen, the last time I saw him, I was sitting in my hotel suite in London with Jimmy Page. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning. We were just having a very elegant gentleman's cup of tea, teapot and everything. The door to my suite goes, and Michael McIntyre, my co-producer, who was working with us, he gets up and opens the door, and his jaw hits the floor because he's like a total Van Halen fan. And Eddie casually go, is David in? And I wasn't under my own name. And Mikey walks in and he goes, oh, it's Van Halen. And Edward just pushes past. I go, Edward, how you doing? And he goes, all right, great to see you. Oh, Jimmy Page. And he then hugs Jimmy Page. Well, first off, he goes to my minibar immediately and at 10 o'clock in the morning and takes a fucking Heineken out. He's at Jimmy's feet, and he picks up my acoustic, and he's like, whoa, how did you play this fucking thing? You know, it's amazing. I had an Eddie Van Halen and Jimmy Page sitting there. Eddie had a Heineken, and Jimmy and I had a cup of tea. That's the really cool story that David Coverdale recalled about the last time he had the chance to see Eddie Van Halen. And We move, and also Jimmy Page admired Eddie a lot. And when Eddie passed away back in 2020 at the age of 22, at the age of 65, he published a tribute to Eddie, and he said, "It is with great sadness that I heard the passing of Eddie Van Halen. He was the real deal. He pioneered a dazzling technique on guitar with taste and panache that I felt always placed him above his imitators. It was good to see him featured at the Met's Play It Loud exhibition. Rest in peace, Eddie." That's what Jimmy Page said about Eddie Van Halen. And we reached the second person that Eddie said one time during his career that he felt he was sloppy when playing live, and that is Jimi Hendrix, the incredible guitarist Jimi Hendrix, who sadly passed away at the age of 27, but changed the course of guitar playing. And this is what Eddie said in an interview with Spinner, which was published by Van Halen News Desk in 2009. And he said, "I say it's a hell of a," about being compared with Hendrix. He was asked in an interview, and he said, "I say it's a hell of a compliment, but at the same time, I'm really nothing like Jimi Hendrix. I'm just saying I'm very different than Hendrix because I create stuff. He used so many effects and stuff that I was the complete opposite. I wanted the guitar to do things, but nobody built the guitar that I wanted. Hendrix didn't do things like that. He was an amazing guitar player, but if you ever heard any live bootlegs of him, even some of the Woodstock stuff, it's hard for him to keep that thing even tuned." And the ex-Whitesnake guitarist, who is also Dutch, like Eddie Van Halen, who is Adrian Vandenberg, in an interview with Kyle Olsen back in 2020, he said that he was a good friend of Eddie, and he said that Eddie told him a few times that he believed that Hendrix was sloppy. And he said, "We didn't really play, we just were there with guitars on the left." He said that went to Eddie Van Halen's home one day, and Eddie asked Adrian who was his favorite guitar player, and Adrian answered, "Well, it's Jimi Hendrix." And this is what he said: he thought Jimi Hendrix was too sloppy. His favorite was Eric Clapton. He could play the solo to Crossroads note to note perfectly. As a kid, he just worked all those solos out, and that's what really, what according to Adrian Vandenberg, Eddie Van Halen said. And Eddie said also in an interview with Howard Stern in 2006 that he believed that Hendrix used too much equipment to play, and that wasn't something that he really liked at all, many times. But again, I'm saying these are just a few things that Eddie said in one interview or two, and his opinion might have changed over the years. But by saying someone is sloppy when playing live, it doesn't mean he doesn't like them. By the contrary, he said he likes both of these guitarists. So it's just a few interesting things about Eddie's point of view of a few guitarists, okay? And if you want to read more, you want to read all this stuff I told you, you can go to the description, and there's much more in the article. You can read the entire thing, find the links for these interviews, and etc. And please leave your comment below. Tell me if you agree with those statements or not, and tell me what you think. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and visit rockandrollgarage.com. Thank you for watching. I'll see you later.